finally up and running. Everyone knows what to do. My favorite story of the weekend, Santa Clarita man with coronavirus. Quote, "It's been easier than having a cold." This comes from the Orange County Register as I begin the rundown for this Monday morning, March 1st, March 2nd, 2020. I didn't get to say rabbit on the air, so I'll say it this morning. A Santa Clarita man infected with coronavirus on a cruise ship in Japan remained ill and isolated at a hospital in Omaha, Nebraska, as of Saturday, February 29th. But he said his symptoms have been mild. Carl Goldman spent weeks aboard the Diamond Princess, that cruise liner on which hundreds of people had contracted the virus. He came down with a fever during the flight back to the U.S. chartered by the State Department on Sunday, February 16th, and subsequently was diagnosed. It was a giant floating petri dish, he said of the ship. However, his body temperature returned to normal about 4 days later. He wrote in a first-hand report for KHTS Radio, a station he owns along with his wife. Since then, he's been bugged mostly by a persistent cough and by boredom. He made a point to walk at least 10,000 steps each day, which equates to about 750 laps around the room where he is currently kept in isolation. He hasn't had any direct contact with anyone but medical staff during his stay in Nebraska, but he's received a steady stream of encouraging messages from old friends and Santa Clarita residents. And the food's been pretty good in the hospital, he said. So, look, get the virus unless you're really old or you have an underlying immunity disease disorder or underlying respiratory disorder, you're going to be fine. We've had 2 deaths in the United States, and Seattle's got a little pod in a retirement home up there that we're watching very closely. Meanwhile, the United States, under the very calm guidance of Mike Pence, who was on all the Sunday shows yesterday, has radically expanded coronavirus testing. The FDA has waived its rules. Everyone is producing tests. Everyone will get tested who needs it, and it's a very good situation for the United States. Mike Pence went on State of the Union yesterday, said this, cut number 24.
The way that it works, Jake, is that local health officials are in the lead, but in the cases this weekend and this week that emerged as as you said, a community infection, we send CDC officials in to work very closely to identify where they potentially were exposed to the coronavirus. And that aggressive effort is underway.
Who heads that? CDC, HHS?
Actually, our local officials, local health officials, state health officials are the front line of defense, but we move CDC personnel in immediately. They consult with them because the objective is we get that patient treated, but we want to find out not just where they got it, but we want to find out who else may have been exposed so those people can receive the kind of treatment and have the kind of recovery that most Americans will have
that even contract
there are
probably thousands of cases in the United States. There are cases in all the West Coast states, California, Oregon, Washington. They're in Wisconsin, Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Arizona. It's everywhere, and it's going to get bigger, but the key is we know how to treat it. It's not going to kill you. All you have to do is take it seriously and get tested. The irresponsible rhetoric. Now that we're up and running, everything is good. Mike Pence said just on Meet the Press to Chuck Todd, this, cut number 27.
Well, I will tell you, there's been a lot of irresponsible rhetoric among Democrats and commentators.
Who is this?
On the left.
Name some names, sir.
Well,
because this is just, it just feels like gaslighting. Please name some names. We're all big.
Well,
we're all big people here. Name some names.
There was a column in the New York Times that by a prominent liberal journalist that said we should rename it the Trump virus.
Okay, that is. Does that apply to all people?
So that the president would be blamed. Chuck, this virus began in China.
Why take this? Here's what I ask you. This doesn't help. This does not help.
Decisive action to protect the American people, and when you see voices on our side pushing back on outrageous and irresponsible rhetoric on the other side, I think that's important.
Do you think this rhetoric from your side helps?
I never begrudge people responding to unwarranted, unjustified attacks. But I promise you, we're going to continue to focus on the mission the president's given this task force and given this government. And that is, we're going to bring the full resources of the federal government to bear. And the American people, the American people can be confident that we're going to continue to work this issue. We're going to work with leaders in both parties in Congress to make sure that not only our federal agencies have all the resources they need, but our state and local governments, healthcare providers have the resources and the support to provide the care that every American would want.
Yeah, that's
Remember,
basically
Chuck,
the message
this
that
is
Mike
about
Pence delivered
the
again and
lives of
again
the
and
American
again, and
people.
it's the one that needs to be delivered again and again and again. The supply chains in the United States for the delivery of the critical means to treat coronavirus are up and running. You don't have to run out and buy masks. You don't have to fret. You don't have to panic. They're on top of it. Who's not on top? Pete Buttigieg, he's out. Who's not on top? Tom Steyer, he's out. South Carolina was a disaster for both of them. They got out of the race. Joe Biden won, but as my front page Washington Post landing page story says, enjoy it, Joe Biden, because it's not going to last. He treated it like an overwhelming victory. It was not. He won 48.4%, I believe, of the vote, and he only gained 61% of the African-American vote. Now, that, at first glance, seems more impressive than Sanders' 43% of the youth vote in South Carolina. But think about this. This is part of my column, which you can find at WashingtonPost.com on the front page. Hugh Hewitt. The African-American vote will account for 12% of the November 2020 electorate, while the youth vote, that's millennials and Gen Z combined, come in at 37%. Bernie's got the mojo in the demographic that matters by far the most. I agree with the Washington Post story by Scott Wilson this morning. Sanders looks to California to deliver him the Democratic nomination. Tomorrow is Super Tuesday. I urge every Republican in an open primary state to do what I did in Virginia. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Let's get the race that we want to have. Pete Buttigieg dropped out after a noble race, and he wasn't out of money. He's not stiffing anyone. But I think his dropping out, people think it's helping Joe Biden. I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe a generational change voter is going to run over and vote for Joe Biden because of all the candidates. He appears to be the oldest. In fact, we had a couple of choice Joe Biden moments over the weekend that should be in the rundown. Here's Joe Biden on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace, cut number 12.
Mr. Vice President, thank you. Thanks for your time. Please come back in less than 13 years, sir.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
Chris. I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck. I tell you what, man, these are back-to-back. Anyway.
No, it's okay.
I don't know how you do it early in the morning, too.
Yeah, I don't know how you be president early in the morning. Joe Biden said this on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Again, he was trying to turn a tepid win with the help of the media into a triumph. It was not. Cut number 11, Joe Biden on This Week.
And I can get that done on health care by building on Obamacare with a Biden Medicare option in it. I can do this in terms of Ebola. In terms of dealing with the issues that relate
coronavirus, to Ebola coronavirus. It really doesn't matter,
Come on, man. Come on. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone.
Here's our new one, Generalissimo. Cut number 10, Joe Biden on I didn't meet with Nelson Mandela.
I guess the question is, were you confused or were you just trying to embellish a story?
No, what I was doing was talking about the fact that I was strongly opposed to apartheid. When we landed we were going to Soweto, actually. We landed in Johannesburg, and the Afrikaners took me off the plane, took me in one direction, wanted me to go through a white-only door, and in fact, I wouldn't move. I said everybody else is going through another door. I'm going with the black delegation that I came with. They said, no, you can't. And I said, well, I'm standing here. I'm not going to move. And they would not let me move anywhere. So I guess I should have said I was detained. I was not able to move forward.
3 times he said I was arrested on the streets of Soweto. 3 times he said that.
Come on, man. Come on.
But he's going to get thumped tomorrow in California, in Texas, in Virginia, across Super Tuesday. I don't know if he's going to be able to come in third in Massachusetts because Bernie and Elizabeth Warren are fighting up there. Amy Klobuchar should win Minnesota. Everything is underway, and they're voting in Israel. More coming up on the rundown here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.